Hey guys, tonight we fly straight into the misty folds of myth, where you, yes, you, are standing awkwardly at the edge of an ancient battlefield, sandals slightly too tight, watching a hero decapitate a snake-haired monster. As you squint into the gore-soaked distance, a glistening white horse with wings literally explodes out of the wound like a sparkly birth announcement you didn't sign up for. Yes, welcome to the origin story of Pegasus, the original high-maintenance horse. And spoiler alert, it only gets more exhausting from here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're cozy already, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge across the battlefield, where Perseus has just used a mirrored shield to behead Medusa, who, despite being a monster, really didn't deserve this whole mess. As her head thunks to the ground, something strange starts to happen. There's a ripple in the air, a shimmer, and then, like the worst gender reveal party ever, a massive winged horse rockets out of her neck like a majestic sneeze. You blink. That horse has wings. It's not bleeding, it's glowing. And it's not neighing, it's humming. Nobody explains anything. Pegasus, the literal name of the horse that just erupted from a decapitated monster, is already airborne, flapping into the sky like he's late for a brunch reservation with the gods. He doesn't look back. You, understandably, take a few steps backward and reconsider your life choices. Here's a fun historical fact while you gather yourself. In the oldest Greek versions, like Hesiod's Theogony, Pegasus isn't even a sidekick. He's a full-blown symbol of divine inspiration, storm-bringing and poetic fury. You'd think that would make him majestic. But really, he's more like a glittery diva who flies off in the middle of every conversation. As for why he's even in Medusa's neck to begin with, historians still argue whether Pegasus and his equally unwanted brother Chrysaor were metaphorical offspring of Poseidon's ill-fated rendezvous with Medusa, or just some post-mortem mythological surprise. Either way, Pegasus is now airborne and extremely not your problem, except he will be. The early days of Pegasus are fuzzy. Some myths say he roams the earth aimlessly, spooking shepherds and refusing to be saddled. Others say he's quietly sipping dew from cloud puddles and composing sky poetry. The fringe theory? That Pegasus used to dive into Mount Helicon, kicking the ground so hard a spring called Hippocrene burst forth, an eternal gusher of water and allegedly inspiration. Poets in ancient times were obsessed with drinking from it. You, unfortunately, are stuck drinking lukewarm barley tea in your straw hut. Meanwhile, Pegasus is doing his best not to be caught. Back on Earth, no one dares chase him. Heroes are either too busy dying or too scared to lasso a horse that can hover at 300 feet. And honestly, Pegasus has zero chill. If you so much as rustle a scroll near him, he bolts. People start treating him like a celebrity on a bad press tour. You try to spot him in the clouds one day, but all you see is a vague horse-shaped smudge. Could be Pegasus, could be weather. He becomes a myth within the myth, like the first influencer who ghosted everyone before he got famous. And yet, you know how these stories go. Sooner or later, some ambitious overachiever is going to try to tame Pegasus. You can already feel it coming. But for now, you sit at the base of a hill, watching the sky shimmer with feathers and ego, and think, this horse has problems. One quirky tidbit most people miss: Pegasus isn't always white. Some early vases show him jet black, as if Greek artists collectively couldn't agree whether he was divine or dangerous, or both. There's even a lesser-known version where he has golden hooves and breathes mist. You'd think someone that sparkly would have better manners. But you don't get to think about that for long. One night, a dream passes through your village, a whisper on the wind. Someone's going to ride the flying horse. Someone's going to try. And you, whether you like it or not, are going to witness it. You roll over on your straw bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind swirl. Somewhere above, Pegasus flies alone, the moonlight catching the edges of his wings. He doesn't know it yet, but his drama is only just beginning. You wake to the sound of village gossip bubbling like old soup. Someone new has arrived, a man with cheekbones sharp enough to slice feta and the sort of hair that screams hero complex. His name is Bellerophon, And he's already asking the locals the weirdest question you've heard all year. Where can I find a winged horse? You try to sneak away unnoticed, but it's too late. Bellerophon has spotted you. Do you know anything about Pegasus, he asks, with the confidence of a man who has never tried to lasso a weather phenomenon. You shrug and mumble something about clouds and divine tantrums. But Bellerophon isn't discouraged. He's been told by a king, who may or may not have just wanted him dead, that if he wants to prove himself, he has to slay the Chimera. Yes, that Chimera, the lion-goat-snake abomination that breathes fire and probably judges your sandals. But Bellerophon, full of that youthful hubris that gets mythological men into trouble, decides he'll need Pegasus for the job. Because, of course, who needs a basic sword when you can show up to battle on a flying diva? There's just one issue. Pegasus does not want to be caught. So Bellerophon, instead of buying a rope or learning stealth, goes full send on a prayer to Athena. Classic move. Sleep-deprived, desperate, and lying on the steps of her temple like a man who's lost his last drachma, he finally gets her attention. She visits him in a dream, hands him a golden bridle, because what else do you give to someone trying to bond with an airborne narcissist, and tells him where to find Pegasus. Here's your mainstream historical fact. Athena was frequently inserted into myths to tidy up wild narrative gaps. Pegasus being tamed just because? Nope. Needs divine paperwork. So she gets shoehorned into this myth with a "here, take this magic bridal" moment, and off Bellerophon goes. And now you're trailing him through the woods up Mount Perrine, where Pegasus allegedly hangs out sipping water like a winged influencer with boundary issues. You find him just as Athena said, wings folded, haloed by mist, drinking from the spring like he owns the mountain. He's even glowing slightly, the kind of glow that says, "I don't talk to commoners." Bellerophon moves carefully. You hide behind a bush, chewing your fingernail. He slips the bridle over Pegasus's neck with a mix of awe and please don't bolt tension. For one glorious second, Pegasus freezes. Then, nothing. No tantrum. No lightning bolts. Pegasus just snorts and blinks, like someone handed him an Evian bottle and asked him to do chores. He accepts the bridle, flicks his tail, and lets Bellerophon mount him. Somewhere in the clouds, a very bored Zeus probably mutters, "Well, this should be interesting." You follow the duo back to town, where people are already freaking out. A flying horse! Bellerophon sits atop Pegasus like he's trying not to throw up, because let's be real, there are no stirrups and Pegasus is not a smooth ride. Every flap feels like a thunderclap, and when he banks, Bellerophon's left leg practically kisses the horizon. And yet, there it is, the start of a partnership destined to last until someone gets way too ambitious. Fringe detail time. Some say the golden bridle wasn't just magical, it also whispered divine commands into Pegasus's ears, keeping him tame. So basically, this horse was bribed with compliments and divine peer pressure. Honestly, relatable. The people rejoice. A flying hero, a loyal steed. But you, still half hiding behind a fig cart, sense something off. Pegasus is already rolling his eyes behind those majestic lashes. He obeys, sure, but there's a flicker of resentment in every wing beat. You once tried to babysit a goat that kicked everyone and ate scrolls. This is going to be worse. Still, the pair trains. Bellerophon learns how to hold on during nosedives. Pegasus learns not to throw him off every time a bird gets too close. Slowly, they become a unit. Not a friendly unit, mind you. This isn't a Disney montage, but an efficient one. One open scholarly debate you've overheard, whether Bellerophon ever truly controlled Pegasus, or if the horse just tolerated him because the gods said so. Some versions say Pegasus only acted loyal to get out of dealing with humans faster. Others insist he felt a bond with Bellerophon. Either way, somebody is about to fight a fire-breathing monstrosity, and you are definitely not going. One evening, as stars speckle the sky and the air turns electric, Pegasus lifts off with Bellerophon for real battle. No more training. No more spring water sipping. The Chimera waits. And you? You whisper a prayer for them. Not because you believe in the gods, but because you've seen how Pegasus kicks, and you really don't want to clean up whatever happens next. You're flat on your back in a grassy field, staring up at a smear of white feathers and bronze armor vanishing into the sky. The ground trembles every time Pegasus flaps his wings. Bellerophon, your reluctant neighborhood hero, clings to the saddleless back like a mortal burr on divine upholstery. They're off to fight the Chimera, and you've wisely decided to stay very grounded. But even from here, you can hear the first rumble of distant roars, like a lion gargling lava with a sinus infection. Pegasus arcs through the air like a comet dipped in horsehair, and you can't help but admit it's beautiful, until he nearly clips a cliff and sends Bellerophon screaming an octave no hero should reach. The Chimera looms in a nearby valley, all mashed together monster parts and body issues. Imagine a lion's head that won't stop yelling, a goat's head jutting out of its back like a cursed backpack, and a serpent for a tail that looks like it hasn't eaten in weeks. Oh, and it breathes actual fire. Naturally. Pegasus hesitates just outside the blast zone, wings twitching with visible judgment. He looks back at Bellerophon like, seriously? This is your plan? But they charge in anyway. Here's your mainstream historical fact while this aerial nonsense kicks off. The Chimera wasn't just a monster, it was a symbol. Ancient Greek art used it to represent volcanic eruptions, particularly around Lycia, modern-day Turkey, where actual vents of flaming gas inspired local legends. So this flying flamethrower goat lion wasn't just nightmare fuel, it was geology with teeth. Back in the air, Pegasus is doing most of the work. He dodges flame belches, swoops behind the Chimera, and pulls evasive maneuvers like he's got Bluetooth-enabled wings. Bellerophon? He's flailing with a javelin like someone poking a wasp nest from a moving swing. You feel bad for him, sort of. The goat head tries to bite them. The snake tail actually succeeds. Pegasus lets out a shriek so dramatic it could close a Broadway show, then retaliates by dive-bombing the Chimera and nearly throwing Bellerophon in the process. They do this loop several times. Fire, swoop, scream, almost die. Pegasus starts ignoring commands entirely. One fringe tidbit from obscure mythographers. Pegasus was believed to have selective hearing. If a command wasn't shouted in hexameter or didn't include the word please, he'd pretend not to hear it. But the climax is a mess of smoke, feathers, and impulsive decisions. Pegasus gets Bellerophon just close enough for the hero to jam a lead-tipped spear down the Chimera's throat. Because, in a move that would impress zero veterinarians, someone once told him molten metal kills fire beasts. Spoiler, it does. The Chimera, gasping and sizzling, collapses into a heap of myth and regret. Pegasus lands shakily, panting like he just ran a marathon in stilettos. Bellerophon slides off, face pale, hair crisped at the edges. They've done it. They've slain the impossible. But as the crowd gathers and cheers, Pegasus steps away from the celebration. He's not into it. No hoof bumps. No, we did it. Just a silent trot toward a stream to cool off his wings. You approach later, slowly. Pegasus lets you close, sort of. He's got ash in his mane, a singe mark on one wing, and the look of someone who deeply regrets all of his decisions since emerging from Medusa's neck. Bellerophon is now a certified hero. Songs are sung, statues commissioned, children named after him, often poorly. But no one thanks Pegasus. Open scholarly debate time. Some ancient writers argue that Pegasus should have been the main hero of the tale. After all, Bellerophon just hung on. Others insist that Bellerophon's cunning, using lead to exploit the Chimera's fire, makes him the true victor. Either way, it's clear Pegasus is growing tired of being a winged Uber for people with glory complexes. Weeks pass. Bellerophon, no longer satisfied with mortal applause, starts eyeing Olympus. I could totally visit the gods. He tells a group of admirers one day, puffing out his chest. I rode Pegasus, remember? You roll your eyes so hard you nearly see the back of your own skull. Pegasus, nearby, snorts a warning. But it's too late. The seed is planted. Soon Bellerophon is oiling his arms and polishing his worst ideas. I'll fly to Olympus, he says. The gods will welcome me. You gently suggest not doing that. So do local priests and birds and clouds. Even the town goat seems skeptical. But Bellerophon is riding the high of victory and assumes divine air traffic control will just wave him in. Pegasus, of course, is forced to play chauffeur again. Fringe scholars love this bit. Some say Pegasus tried to buck him off before they reached the upper sky. Others say he only did it when Zeus gave him that look from the cloud penthouse. Either way, drama is about to drop. You stand in the village square, watching the sky. A tiny speck climbs higher and higher until you can barely see it. Then suddenly, plop, Something falls. Not Pegasus, just Bellerophon. You wince. That had to hurt. You flinch as Bellerophon makes impact somewhere beyond the ridge. An undignified mortal speck plummeting from the clouds like a sack of overly confident potatoes. There's no dramatic thunderclap, no applause. Just an uncomfortable silence, followed by the distant yelp of someone realizing they are very much not immortal. Pegasus, meanwhile, hovers in the sky for a moment, then banks away from Olympus as if to say, "I am not cleaning that up." You sigh. And so does the crowd. Someone starts quietly sweeping the village square, like trying to reset the day back to normal, after witnessing a man get politely smote for hubris. Now Pegasus is alone again, circling above like a bored satellite, finally free from the sweaty grasp of Bellerophon. You'd think he'd go back to his spring, sip dew, maybe even get his wings buffed. But instead, he just ascends. Like, for real this time. Historians still argue whether this moment was a reward, a retirement, or just the gods throwing up their hands and saying, "Fine, he's yours now, Zeus." But what's clear is this. Pegasus never returns to Earth again. Zeus, either impressed by his performance or in desperate need of someone to fetch thunderbolts without filing complaints, installs Pegasus as his official celestial delivery horse. Just like that, the winged stallion goes from reluctant battle Uber to Olympus's most glorified intern. Pegasus now lives among the clouds, stationed somewhere near the celestial stables, which, depending on the myth, are either gilded marble dream barns or suspiciously foggy holding pens with zero privacy. Either way, it's not what you'd call freedom. And here's your mainstream historical fact to file under divine bureaucracy. The Greeks imagined Olympus as a real mountaintop above Thessaly, where weather was made and immortals hung out like dramatic co-workers. Having Pegasus as Zeus's assistant wasn't just a plot point. It reflected the ancient belief that nature, wind, storms, inspiration came from higher beings with really weird management styles. So what does Pegasus do all day now? Well, mostly he runs errands. He zips between thunderclouds, delivers divine gossip, maybe flirts with Aurora when the dawn breaks too late. He's no longer dodging fire monsters, but let's not pretend he's happy. This is a creature born from chaos and magic, now being asked to organize celestial lightning bolts like a glowing winged secretary. The fringe detail? Some versions of the myth say Pegasus never stopped kicking. Literally. Even in Olympus, he was known to stomp in frustration, which supposedly caused thunder to rumble. That's right, every time you've been startled by a rogue storm, might have just been Pegasus throwing a hoof fit because someone made him wait too long. The other gods have mixed feelings about him. Hera thinks he sheds too much. Apollo wants to ride him to music festivals. Dionysus once tried to braid his mane and got kicked into a fig tree. So Pegasus mostly keeps to himself, perching on cloud ledges, watching the mortals below, wondering how he went from legendary birth to full-time divine rideshare. And yet, there is something majestic about him now. Less the flashy teen diva, more the tired celestial elder. You spot him on clear nights, etched into the stars. Yes, that constellation. Pegasus eventually becomes one of the 48 ancient constellations catalogued by Ptolemy himself, your mainstream history moment of the night. So now when you stare up into that specific squarish group of stars, you're technically gazing at the cosmic embodiment of a horse who once bucked a war hero mid-air and refused to be saddled unless bribed by a goddess. Iconic behavior, honestly. You sit back, sipping your barley tea, and think, he really didn't ask for any of this. From neck birth to hero courier to celestial delivery boy, Pegasus's life reads like a series of accidental promotions. Open scholarly debate time. Some academics suggest Pegasus was never meant to symbolize loyalty or purity. Instead, he represents wild inspiration, the kind that can't be tamed, like sudden ideas, storm winds, or cats. Others say he does become loyal, but only to Zeus, and that loyalty is his final transformation. Either way, he's never ridden again. Not by mortals, not even by gods. Pegasus becomes myth wrapped in legend, laminated with stardust. You catch him one last time, glittering above the clouds, tail flicking through moonlight. He doesn't see you, but you wave anyway. And then you remember a quirky little footnote of lore. Pegasus was said to be the first creature to reach Olympus without dying. No demigod status, no divine parent cheat code. Just sheer equine willpower and wings that did not come with an off switch. You like that. A lot. Because maybe Pegasus wasn't high maintenance. Maybe he was just done putting up with everyone else's nonsense. And now, there you are, lying on your back once more, grass gently brushing your elbows, the stars quietly humming above you. The constellation Pegasus glows faintly to the east, frozen mid-gallop, forever bolting across the sky like he's still trying to outrun someone's terrible idea for a battle plan. You squint up at him, half expecting a sarcastic snort to echo down from the heavens. Because truly, no mythological creature worked harder for less gratitude. And yet, the world remembers him. Not Bellerophon, not the Chimera, not even the golden bridle that clearly should have been framed and worshipped in some temple gift shop. No, it's Pegasus people whisper about in sleepy tones, half believing he'll show up outside their window, shimmering and annoyed, wings fluttering like a curtain caught in the wind. You've come to realize Pegasus wasn't just a flying horse. He was a symbol. Not of loyalty or nobility. Please, he would have laughed in your face, but of being irreplaceably, inconveniently you, no matter who tries to throw a bridle on you. One final mainstream historical nugget before bed. During the Renaissance, Pegasus was embraced by poets and artists as a symbol of creativity, the winged spirit of imagination. They'd say Mount Pegasus when they meant start creating. Little did they know, the original Pegasus would have rolled his eyes and demanded a snack before letting you near his mane. The story doesn't end with him galloping into the clouds. Not really, because people kept adding layers. Medieval scholars insisted he delivered divine messages. Victorians romanticized him into a unicorn without the horn. And today? Well, he shows up on everything from logos to loyalty cards, usually drawn in glittery clip art that would have sent ancient Greeks into an artistic crisis. Fringe tidbit? In one particularly baffling Roman version, Pegasus ends up being too good, and Zeus retires him into the sky just to keep him from showing up all the other divine creatures. Pegasus becomes the celestial equivalent of being promoted out of the office just so everyone else can breathe again. You stretch out on the hilltop, listening to the leaves rustle like soft hooves on marble, and let your thoughts drift to every time Pegasus could have just bolted. But he didn't. He showed up, again and again, wings forward, eyes narrowed, entirely over it, but still flying. Historians still argue whether Pegasus had free will or if divine intervention made his choices for him. Did he choose to follow Bellerophon, to rise to Olympus, to become a constellation? Or was he nudged into every step by gods with too much time and not enough horses? Either way, there's something deeply comforting about him still being up there. A starry shape galloping just out of reach, reminding you that even the crankiest legends have a place in the sky. You sit up, dust off your tunic, and look around one last time. The village is quiet. The gods are asleep, hopefully. And Pegasus? He's flying laps across eternity, probably side-eyeing Orion for being too dramatic. One last thought sneaks into your sleepy mind. Maybe Pegasus wasn't high maintenance. Maybe he was just the first mythological creature with clear boundaries. And honestly, that's the kind of energy you need right now.